States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Today is the observance of the traditional Memorial Day, and if we could just take a moment of silence to reflect on the ultimate sacrifices that our fighting men and women have made over the generations in order to give us this freedom for assembly and freedom for speech, press, religion, everything that we enjoy here in this country. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay, as stated earlier, thank you all for being here for this extremely important gathering. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Thank you for being here. Why I was late? As you all know, two of our local boys that are very near and dear to me and a lot of you in this room are still missing out in the wilderness in Idaho, in the backcountry. They were out there. Sure, all of you know by now, the incident happened 8 days ago when they woke up early in the morning. I believe it was 3 a.m. They had gotten in a Suburban, and it was operated by a guide. There were actually 2 hunting guides that were with them, so there were 402 guides. And somehow, along the route that they were taking to get back into the hunting spot, the vehicle ran off the shoulder of the roadway. It was a very narrow logging road, so it really wasn't much of a road. I think it's a one-lane road, dirt and gravel road, and they drifted off the right shoulder. The vehicle entered the Selway River that runs north and south in Idaho. And this time of year, the river is raging. It's running very, very hard. It's white water, river type of water, and it's about 8 feet deep. Not usually that deep, but this time of year, it's 8 feet deep. The truck overturned that they were in. 2 of the hunters were able to escape and made it to shore. And the 4 remaining occupants, including our Prairie boy, Jesse Ranger Prairie, did not make it to shore at that point. So the Idaho County Sheriff's Department, they began an investigation, and they began their search and rescue efforts to try to rescue the boys and the other 2 young men. The 2 guys, by the way, one was 21 and one was 22, one from Montana, one from Oregon. They came in, they were hired by the outfitters that planned this whole trip. And our boys are still missing. It's day 8, and they haven't recovered any or found any of the young men. So what I did today, and where's Nicole Borelli? She's here somewhere, Stern, right? Nicole, sorry to mention this. Nicole called me today and gave me information for two senators, a senator from Idaho and a senator from Montana. I called both of them, and I was on the phone with them until about 20 minutes ago. And I filled them both in on what was going on. The senator from Idaho knew about it. He heard about the accident. The Montana senator hadn't heard about it. But I filled him in. We had a lengthy conversation. And the end result is that both of those senators are contacting Sheriff Giddings. He's the sheriff of Idaho County, either tonight or tomorrow morning, to find out if there's anything that they can do to assist in this. Because evidently the sheriff of Idaho County called off and suspended the search and rescue efforts and also the recovery efforts. He suspended those, so that's no longer ongoing out there right now. We believe that it should still be ongoing, and we need to know why. And I'm hoping that these 2 senators, after speaking with Sheriff Giddings, who they personally know, can fill him in and give him some information as to what's going on, and hopefully offer some resources to help and maybe continue the operation out there. So let's all continue to keep the Ferrari family, these boys, in our thoughts and prayers, and hope for a safe return home. Maybe they're out in the wooded area, in the woods somewhere. It's the backcountry out there. It's incredibly rugged. It's wilderness, but hopefully they made it to shore, and they're out in there somewhere, and they're going to be found safe and return home to us. So we're doing everything that we can, and I know all of you are doing everything that you can with your thoughts and prayers. Please keep it up. Keep your prayers going, and let's hope that our boys come back home safe and they can rejoin us again. All right, so I just wanted to brief everybody on that. Thank you, Susie, for letting me fill everybody in as to where we are as far as the efforts are going. So thank you so much, and thank you all for being here.
Once we get the PowerPoint up, you'll have it, but we're going to continue with the meeting. Tonight's meeting is for our town's future. As you all know, we need to start someplace, and we need to start now, and what this board would like to do is engage the entire community with all of the boards, all the civic associations, and whomever wants to be involved will be involved. We want to hear you. So welcome and thank you for participation in the vision of our town's future. Tonight we have planning board members, zoning board of appeals members, environmental conservation board members, park and recreation delegates, town department manager, town consultants, and the town board. So if you guys don't mind, because some people may not know, some of you here at the dais, if you can briefly just say what your name is and what department or association, civic association or board you're with. And you guys don't know us, so I'll start with Mike.
Nick as a building inspector.
Rich Tracetti, town engineer.
Bob Logan, Chairman, Environmental Conservation Board.
Nick Bannon, Vice Chairman, Environmental Conservation Board.
Vince Farrell, member, Environmental Conservation Board.
Nick Barnett, member of the Environmental Conservation Board and the Lake Lake Park District Advisory Board.
David Ferraro, I'm the chair of the Recreation Board, and also member of the planning board.
Joyce McCollum, I'm the vice chair of the recreation board.
Ken Coran, I'm on the Recreation Board, representing the seniors of town.
Mike Mongan on the Recreation Board and also the Vice President of the Board of Education.
Jim Gilchrist, I'm the Recreation Director.
John Maxwell, Chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Silvio Balzano, Zoning Board of Appeals.
Bill Rossiter, Zoning Board of Appeals.
Rose Fabiano, Zoning Board of Appeals.
Phil Aglietti, Zoning Board of Appeals. Michael Schwartz, member of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Randy Poussey, Planning Board.
Also, Bill Charbonneau, counsel for the planning board, town council.
Planning board.
Craig Paper, vice chair, planning board. Anthony Candido, planning board.
Mary Ann Maxwell, town controller.
Rachel Shetty, town council.
And I think I see Kristen Fons.
Mr. Friends, architect, consultant to the planning board.
So tonight, we're going to go over an overview, which is going to include the colors of the town, the infrastructure of the town. Sorry.
John Summers, a member of the Environmental Conservation.
Anybody else that I missed that's on the boards?
Amy's here. Amy.
Okay, so again, we're gonna go over an overview with the codes of the town, the infrastructure, the master plan. We're gonna have brainstorming, objectives, rules, and what are the next steps. Now, I'm gonna go through the rules right now, and they're very simple. Everyone is supposed to be cordial. There's not gonna be any, finger pointing. This is going to be a positive, productive meeting. We want very constructive people to speak, all right? We don't need any negativity. We want to let the town move forward. In order to do that, we all have to work together. For the overview, perfect. Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Okay, just one thing I want to add before we go on. This meeting is to, and I'm glad you're all here, to discuss the future of the town of Carmel. We want what the blueprint of this town is going to be for 20 years from now, 25 years from now. And all of you folks are the architects of that. So we need your input. We need you to participate. We need your involvement. This is how we're going to frame this town, craft this town down the road. So the importance of it, I can't stress enough the importance of these discussions, these meetings, these conversations, and there's going to be many. This is the kickoff, which is starting tonight, but going forward, there's going to be many meetings, and there's going to be others involved as well. The town of Carmel, we budgeted money in the 2018 budget as funds. I believe it's $100,000 we budgeted, if not correct, for consulting firms, because for something this size, a total revamp of your master plan you need a professional firm, you need consultants to help and participate. So there is funding in the 2018 budget for that. So we want to do this right, we want to do it correctly, and it's extremely important that you all continue to participate. So thank you all for being here.
To the overview, it's been many years since the last master plan was developed for our town. This town board feels that it's vital for our future to have an updated plan in place to make sure we continue on the best path for our future. Some of the items needed to be developed for this plan to be successful will be updated codes and zoning pertaining to the vision of our master plan, improvements to our existing infrastructure as well as expansion and additions into the future, and delivery of service for the residents and businesses in our town. We're going to need everything. We need infrastructure, codes, and master plan. Without one of them, it's not going to move forward. So it's very imperative that we have all of them. So, this one here is the codes. We're gonna go through the codes real quick. How it's gonna run, I'm gonna have, we're having, like, some of the board members talk about this, and towards the end, we're going to engage the public to get what their feedback is. So some of the codes that we're presently working on is a towing and wetlands code. Okay. Some of the future codes that's on the town radar is the de-icer bubblers, which I think you all have been listening, you've been listening to, meetings that we've been speaking about that. The neighborhood identities, when we've been meeting with the chamber, with Larry and Tom, yep, we've been, kind of, when I say neighborhood identities, it's like restaurant row, a light industrial, artisans path. So different sections of the town of Carmel will have different, identities to it. And that would entail the facades, the infrastructure. Okay, so that's the color schemes. So that we want to speak about, and Larry and Mike and John can speak about that later. The zoning, we need to find out what zoning, if the zoning boards have come up with any problems that they have, or the town, the residents of the town. Is there something that you see that we need to put into effect? And then the signage. We've been speaking about the signage for the last 8 years. That's a very hot topic. And let's try to pull together this time and really get something that'll make the signage move forward. Again, having the neighborhood identities may help a little bit with that. The infrastructure, the present projects relating to the infrastructure are the Carmel Water District 2 distribution system, the Carmel Water District 2 facility study, the asset inventory of the New York State pilot program, the Marta Park, drainage and paving. The future projects relating to infrastructure are the Carmel Water District 9 completion, the airport fields, McDonough Field, Sycamore Park tennis courts, asset inventory project, and a community center town pool.
That has question marks.
Yes.
Behind it on the slide. Because it hasn't been decided for sure about town pool, but we can discuss that a little bit further, especially with Parks and Rec. Because as I was going through the master plan of Parks and Rec, I saw two plans that had some swimming pools and associated. We'll definitely be looking forward to that discussion.
All right, and I'd like to add one other bullet to the infrastructure, the sewer main that runs from Wallhour Main, where the sewer one main terminates, further west on Route 6 down towards Golden Place near the intersection of 118. We desperately need sewer down that side of town. We don't have sewer or water. And water, sewer and water. So those are two more bullets, or one more bullet, but you can write in sewer and water for the Route 6 corridor from Route 6 and Wallhour Page, south on 6 or west on 6 to the county line, town line. We need to move forward with that. There is a study underway now that Inside Engineering is undertaking that was contracted with by Putnam County. So that study, that facilities report is ongoing, and we hope that to have that report from Jeff DeTomo from Inside
Yeah, this is actually perfect timing for recreation. I don't know if this, is this on?
Button up. Oh, yeah, guys, just make sure your
Where's,
phone's up.
where's the red one?
Is there a red button on the top?
No.
Red button on the top.
All right, so I have a loud voice.
You do?
So we did our recreation master plan about 10 years ago in 2008, and part of that was a recommendation to update it and revise it 10 years later. So we're actually in a perfect time to do that. Our athletic fields, after we have the completion, if this goes forward with the airport project and McDonough Park, our athletic field portion of the master plan will take us way into the future. We'll be all set with athletic fields. Our two big items that we need to resolve would be a community center, which we've been working on since 2012, 2013. We have all approvals for a community center in Sycamore Park. The major thing would be the funding for something that large of a project. The other is the swimming pool. That did come up in the master plan. So I would hope with the town planners and the planning board, any large developments that come up in town, we need at least a 12-acre parcel that would be completely developed with a proximity to a large parking lots in a nice area in town. The other option, I know Dave Farrow has been kicking around over the last couple of months, is talking to the county and possibly looking at some kind of a swimming facility that we could do a joint venture with Putnam County near the airport fields. So in recreation, we've accomplished probably about 60% of our master plan over the last 10 years. We've had great support from the town board with funding. We've had quite a few state grants that have helped a lot of the projects through. So Camarda Park is complete. Baldwin Meadows Park is complete. Those are on two farther parks in either end of town. And now we're concentrating on the center parks. So, yeah, okay.
Also, the stakeholders were big in a lot of the improvements that we have gotten through. I've got a lot of the stakeholders themselves that have been involved.
Yeah, those stakeholders are our sports organizations throughout town that have really taken vested interest in.
And that stakeholder has done a lot of work, certainly affected the town. A couple of projects missing on it is basketball courts, right? We have a brand new basketball court for the group. And new basketball courts that are on the
It's a-
park.
Yeah, and tennis courts.
Tennis courts is pretty much, that's big, right? So that's pretty much good. So it's also now up to the basketball courts as well.
Is there anyone else on the recreation board that would like to say something?
Jenny, we'll take this back to our board now, right? And,
Yeah.
brainstorm and
Yes.
back to you guys.
Yes. Mike? We're just asking, what you've been working on, what you want to work on.
Mike, if I may interject too, at that point, I think we've got to go through the code and try to make it more business-friendly, like in the commercial zones. You want to make it so there's more business that's attracted to come to the town. Our codes are antiquated, and some of the verbiage in it is old. So we need to go line by line and bring things up that would enhance bringing some business into the town, help the tax base.
Yeah, in regards to what Mr. Maxwell was saying, you can take a look up on the board. Red is what we have presently for the town of Carmel for commercial. So it's pretty limited on the area that we do have really through those main corridors. And there are definitely a lot of changes that I think we need to look at implementing in the very near future as
Red is the 1 acre zoning, and the black cross hatch area, that's the Commerce Business Park, the larger 3 acre area. And there are uses that are allowed in the 1 acre area that aren't allowed in the 3 acre area. It makes no sense. Why would you not be able to do anything if you want to take it over? So that's something else.
So, part of this is like saying you can send that to us, that recommendation, and John, do any recommendations or anybody here, if you have any recommendations, send them to us so we can, when we go to look at the codes and we go to look at the master plan, we have, we don't want to try to list anything, we'd like to put it in that one. We appreciate that. Rich?
So, you guys touched on one thing, the infrastructure that we work on currently, and the proposal, but District 2 know, or distribution system up there, over there, which is letting you, recently went out a facility study for the planning form of what District 2 results came in, we're still assessing, the consultants that came in. Schneider mentioned that the asset inventory to New York City pilot program is something that engineering department sought out about a year and a half ago, or maybe probably close to 2 years ago. It was awarded to us about a year ago. We're one of 10 communities in the state of New York who are participating in this pilot study. They chose 4 of our sewer districts. We have, just so everybody here knows, if you don't know already, we have 8 sewer districts and 13 water districts. So 4 of the sewer districts were included in this asset management pilot study program. And so we're working on that. And the idea is, in the future, the programs and the way we approach it is how we're going to try to do it for the remaining sewer and water districts. The asset management program, the asset inventory, will help us be able to identify where we have weaknesses within our infrastructure within those water and sewer districts, and then be able to plan and budget for those things, and those repairs and those future process equipment related things better than reacting. Right now, we react most of the time, we're trying to stay on top of it, but we want to be able to be ahead of it, so we're not, looking behind us. So that is the goal of the asset inventory. New York State DEC is going to require pretty much most municipalities to include that in their species permits in the future. Species permits is going to use the storage remediation system permits. They will allow, they are going to probably include them in there in the future. So we are ahead of the game at least on 4 of our sewer districts. And we hope to move forward and get that in some of the other districts. We will also mention in the future, former Water District 9 is heading for completion, going through the process with the county health department to get the drawings. We're going to let that out in the summer and hopefully have the work done in the fall. Something that wasn't mentioned again is going back to water districts. We just signed the contracts today for both the purchase and the installation of water meters in the town of Carmel and from the whole pack of all those communities that are in those districts. You will be getting new meters coming up in the future. Notices will be given, but it's going to be a newer system. It's going to help us be able to not only collect revenue, but also have conservation of water, and again, be able to save some money and save resources so that we're not spending on a reactionary type way. So it's positive that we're doing this. We're spending money so that we can move forward. As Jimmy and Dave mentioned, currently the tennis courts, the lower tennis courts in Sycamore, that bid has been let out by the engineering department along with recreation, and we're going to be doing that over the summer, and we're going to be letting out basketball as soon as it just got the grant. So that's what we know. There's probably a lot more, but that's how we're at right now.
Just if I could just touch on the water meters. These new water meters are, they're cloud-based, so they have a transmitter on them, so you no longer have to read your meters. You currently have to physically find your meter, a lot of people don't even know where the meter is located, or you have to send your reading in off the meter on a card to the controller's office, and Mary Ann and her staff have to process those reading the numbers from the meters, and then they send you a bill, and then you return, send a check in, payment of your water use. So these new meters are gonna take your involvement out, actually having to find your meter and read it. You no longer have to read your meters, the radio read meters, the cloud-based, I believe, come off the cloud, they have transmitters on them. So starting mid-July is when the company, National Meter, is gonna start installing it. So if you live in a water district, you're gonna have a new meter installed with the capability of transmitting your meter reading directly to the controller's office, takes you out of your only involvement is when you get the bill, to pay the bill. So that's it. It's gonna make things more efficient for you and for us, and we think it's a good addition to the communities, having these new state-of-the-art meters. That's it under water meters.
So just two more things, I do apologize. We used to have GIS person here in town. We haven't had an update for GIS system since 2009. It's something that we're going to move forward with this whole process. We're moving forward with this master plan. We really should identify the program we need. Maybe we hire somebody outside, maybe we train people inside. We should really have a GIS component in the town hall in general, not just the engineering department, because it would be beneficial for recreation, it would be beneficial for all the different groups to be able to look at this and have that go down.
Rich, can you give just a quick summary on what GIS is missed from the county limits?
I have about a geographic information system. What it does is, so for that, that was developed by our GIS person. Right? It identifies attributes, assets, pinpoints them to a geographic location, latitude, longitude, where you're sitting right now within a minute to a second. It will get you to that point. You can go, okay, for instance, the asset inventory for the sewer and water, I need to know where our valves are. I need to know where our manholes are. But when we're looking at excellent properties, parks, or looking at sidewalks, we will be able to look at that asset and be able to have a better understanding how it situates in looking at this plan, identifying those areas that we're looking at. That's what a GIS component can bring you. One piece of the puzzle is not the end all be all, but is a piece of the puzzle that would be needed.
Take a shot, upload it, stand for them,
And then I do have some comments on the code that I will forward to the board as you request.
So now we're just gonna start with the boards. And we'll start with you with the environmental conservation board again. You know, what you've been working on, what are some things that you see problematic or working on in the future?
Recommendations, yes.
So, the Environmental Conservation Board, we get referred to a lot of zoning, just to make sure that applicants are following current environmental regulations that we have in code. We verify that they're meeting the DEC, DEP, whatever other state agencies that they're required to file with. We make sure we compile all that information when they submit the application. When an applicant makes an application, either a homeowner or a builder, we make sure that all the boxes are checked before we issue the permit. And a lot of the times, the contractors have, the builders have come in with drawings. We enhance them to improve protection of our lakes and our streams. We've implemented spill prevention plans for working on the lake area. We've implemented fueling areas, concrete washout areas, which is trying to keep a lot of the bad stuff out of our water. We have a jewel right there in the middle of the town. One of the first item that we want to look at is maintain the 100-foot buffer around Colwell. I understand that we're considering wetlands just for the town of Carmel only, but a lot of times, a lot of the wetlands are intertwined, some feed others. The DEC may feed into a Carmel one may feed into a DEC one. You know, there's arteries that connect things together. So we're thinking, our thoughts on the board is to retain a 100-foot buffer around all wetlands, streams, Carmel wetlands, and DEC, DEP wetlands as well. Leave the code for the wetlands as is. The second item that we want to retain is retaining and installing a septic tank as a regulated activity. A lot of times we have people want to put their septic tanks in. We're just to double check to make sure that that tank is not going into a wetland or a 100-foot buffer. And if there is, if it does, we're working with the owners to mitigate those excavation or that installation to try and keep it clean. Next one is retain, include the riparian wetlands around watercourse and current wetlands, around bodies of water, and the definition of wetland. We don't want to remove the term watercourse and bodies of water, but we do want to protect the water resources that we have in the existing wetland code. This will also help the MS4, stuff like that. The next item is one of the proposals for the code modification was to require a letter of permission for any work done with the wetland or the town of Carmel that has an approved DEC or Army Corps of Engineers permit. We were told that the non-Carmel wetland is going to be taken out of here. We're just worried about the Carmel wetlands. As a check, if that is the case, if there is limited, we would like to keep some sort of track of what is being done on or around those wetlands. It's all right. It's in our neighborhood. It's maybe regulated by somebody else, but we should have that ability to track, to see, to make sure that they're compliant. We have a wetland inspector that we send out occasionally to check on things, make sure things are being done in the correct manner. I'd like to believe that most contractors and people working on the house do it and try to follow rules. There are those conflict things get messed. So we have to protect our water. And the other two items that we have is other open questions, clear cutting of trees, and we would like to add to have the ability to have the wetlands inspector, the ability to issue notice of violations and appearance tickets to people who work without permits. I don't know what we do now with building departments, but it's the same thing as I'm not saying a very large fine, but just something that gets their attention that has to be done. Sometimes there are repeat offenders, and that's the way it is. As far as the clear cutting is concerned, we have a lot of loggers coming up here. On occasion, we have a 3-meeting open discussion town meeting for an area of Carmel that they were clear cut. The tree harvesting, we were able to work with the forester, landowner, and neighbors to come to a happy medium and to protect the environment and make sure the area is in the road. So we would like to keep the clear cutting. So other than that, that's all I have.
Is there anyone else from the PCD board that would like to add something?
And I'm the vice chairman.
reduce us to 5. We work well together, we have to work well together. Try to move in the right direction. That's one we definitely do. Give us 2 more, keep the form, and take 2 more.
And one of the other changes that you got, that was recommended, or that was proposed changes that we seen, we saw, was elimination of, I'll call it very outdated sections of the code, parts that would require a lot of onus on people who come before us on very simple applications. There was a proposal for removing, for instance, having a professional tell you what kind of wetlands are on the property. With very minute details about, if it's this kind or this kind and all these qualifications. Generally speaking, the maps that are provided and Rich and who've been acting as the wetlands inspector are able to determine the wetlands themselves, and homeowners can determine wetlands themselves when maps are available. Having a hire a professional in order to tell what kind of plants are in the wetland in order to classify the wetland itself seems pretty onerous. So removal of a lot of those outdated or onerous sections is also perfectly, I guess, accurate.
Draft of the changes. First round, it'll be at the first round. Greg, the changes were sent, the proposed all sent back beyond, the motion for public hearing, table, so to draft one, I'm not looking to create more bureaucracy. I work a full-time job. I work in a very bureaucratic area, and it's fine. All I'm trying to do is protect your resources from contaminants. The oil, chemicals, whatever it is. There are people who work around the lake who we're just trying to protect things going into the lake farm. So, some of these changes, some of these changes we agree with, some of the changes we don't agree with. We provide you with changes we don't agree with in writing. And if they're available, I'd like to keep those. And, again, the last thing we want to do is kill the drinking source.
One thing you had mentioned was non-formal water bodies being excluded. Can you, for clarification, for anybody who doesn't know, can you give a few examples on what the non-formal water bodies are that you
Well, there are maps, there are published maps for wetlands. Carmel has a wetlands map that we go by, we know where our identified wetlands are located right down Carmel. There are also DEC wetlands and DEP has wetlands over here too. They have their own maps. All the plan was to do in the original code was to eliminate those wetlands from our jurisdiction. But it still ties everything together. A wetland's a wetland, whether we
are that, and the original map that was developed in 1988.
Just one quick comment. Following Nick and Bob. We may from all this thing, but the one thing that really struck us when we saw the first draft was the elimination of water bodies and water courses. And it's just straight water courses, river. Most of what we see are water bodies in different places, water bodies and streams. Streams are within 100 feet of the and basically, if you took those two things away, you basically would eviscerate, okay, much of the water quality protection that we now have in our jurisdiction under DCD. If you look at the rest of the county, if we did a survey of the rest of the county, we would be the only, perhaps, okay, the only community in any town, up in county, that limits does not provide that type of protection for water courses and water bodies. So that's, I would, myself, that's the number one I think has to be preserved. Any new wetland.
Yeah, I just want to echo all the board's comments and add that when you do your master plan study and have a consultant on board, on the infrastructure portion, explore the expansion of natural gas through the Florida commerce and then availability to residents. That would be a great benefit to this town.
Recreation, I think we did. Is there anything else? Yes, sir.
One of the reasons, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the reasons probably they're eliminated is because they're governed by the state. They're state controlled, they're governed by the state. And total, correct me if I'm wrong, but by eliminating them, we would reduce one permit. They got to go to the state for a permit because they're going to the state water body. And then we also have to come in and do a duplicate permit for the town of Harlem, DCD. So as Mr. Maxwell said, to try to get somewhat commercial friendly, it's not like we're giving the water bodies away and they're not governing them. They have to go to the state agency, and the state is governing them, and you say, we are governing them. So I just don't want the public to get an idea that we were basically, willy-nilly giving, various water bodies away. If an applicant wants to build near one of those water bodies, they have to go to that same agency. So what we try to do is to avoid two permits. If you gotta go to the state, why are you going to the town? Especially if the laws are very similar or all the same. So I just want to, Rich, am I correct in that?
Spot on.
Okay.
All right, the logic behind it.
One of the, we thought about it, part of that is, you look at the shopping centers, we built up the old Kmart. That has Arnold wetland, that has DEC wetland. So they had to go to DEC wetland anyway. So all we do is, if we don't charge an arm and a leg to get the permit, we're usually approving our permit when they get their DEC permit. So their DEC permit application is a 6-month to a year process, depending on the complexity of the permit. So while they're processing that DEC permit, they're coming to us, saying, this is the plan that we have, this is the project we have, here are the wetlands, this is what we applied for, make sure all the checks and balances are made. We put them on the clock. We come in, we comments, we address those comments. Sometimes we find things that they have not addressed with the DEC that we're addressing. And then by the time the only condition we put what the project is, make sure that they got this.
Okay.
I'd also like to say that the vast majority of state-approved permits that have come before us, we have found things that need to be addressed. A vast majority. Many, many times, the state does not ask for mitigation. They'll ask for erosion control. They'll ask to make sure that they're following all the, contamination laws. They will not ask for mitigation. So whenever a new building is being constructed or hard surface is being created, very often they're not asking for a rain garden, something to say, you know what, we need to make sure our water quality stays as it is now, not degrades.
Can't you require that in the normal permit though?
That's what we do. That's what the point is that even though many of the people that come before us do come with a permit from the state or the Army Corps of Engineers, there are still local issues that the state and the Army aren't aware of. They're not aware of conditions on the ground. They're not aware of constraints that are being placed upon our water quality, our water bodies, and water courses. And then that's what this board is for, right? That's why there is a local board that somebody can go to about this. So I feel very strongly about it.
Sorry. Yes, we have to move on.
I just wanted, I asked a clarification question. It wasn't a challenge because this code was sent to us with these modifications. I don't understand why the modifications are. This is not a challenge saying don't put it back in. I'm trying to get an understanding of where it was given to us, why it was taken out in the first place, and now why it's coming back in. But we are getting somewhat derailed.
I'm gonna move on, to the next, is we still. Okay.
And locally, and we're assuming that the state has the resources to follow up on the rules. We also make it easier for people, but we give them heads up on what you need to do, so it isn't back and forth to the tennis court. I don't want to lose the local rules.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to, I put a note on regarding that. So, recreation, anything going on? Mike, I know you're new to the committee, if anything that you wanted, I know you do large projects and stuff, do you have any more suggestions?
Well, no, I mean, we'll sit down and take it to committee, but I do think one of the charges that we should be really interested in is looking how can we extend our recreation offerings to the public to 365 days instead of more of the seasonal stuff. Get more things going on outside, throughout the winter, whether it's walking or when we do have snow, whether there's snowshoeing opportunities, lit walkways that can be plowed in the winter time. That's some of the stuff that we do down at the park that I manage. I manage Overpeck County Park in Bergen County, New Jersey. It's 1,000 acres, and one of the charges that we do there is that park is open 365 days a year to all the Bergen County residents, and it's lit. It's got sport fields and so on. So.
Yes, so everybody, we have mics around, you can grab the mic that's around you. Yeah, put it right up so you're on the stage.
Okay.
Thanks.
No, so I don't know if it's. So I guess the charge would be to see how we can extend our parks, our offering to the community to 365 days, to incorporate a lot of things that normally we used to do in the wintertime that we don't, that we find difficult doing, nowadays. So that would be more with lit walkways that are plowed in the wintertime, so people can go out that work late, that can go out and still walk their dogs and still get exercise in. Things like snowshoeing and skating and all the types of things that kids aren't exposed to anymore. I think that's probably one of the charges that I'd like to see if we can get that going in here and just get 365-day enjoyment to all the residents. So I think that's probably what we'll try to. Yep. Thanks.
I'll keep it short in the interest of time. The zoning board is three major things we do is use variances, area variances, interpretations. Interpretations are, I don't think the mic's working, so I'll stand up to this.
Work the room. Work it, John.
Work your magic, check.
There you go.
So as far as interpretations, this is something Mike comes to us all the time, because our codes are so old. There's things that don't defer or refer to, like if a gas station is needed in an area and not needed in an area, it's outdated. So I think the board, with consult from the zoning board, should rewrite some of the things that are allowed in some of these codes. Again, especially to bring in commercial business. We gotta enhance commercial business. Everyone in this room knows our taxes are too high, and the only thing that's gonna help that is commercial. Area variances, one of the biggest things that comes up in front of us is sheds. Maybe we rewrite the code. I mean, common sense, you don't want a shed in the middle of your yard. We know that. We know we have a code that we have to follow. Maybe it needs to be updated. If you have a certain size shed, if it's maybe 8 by 10, maybe it could come closer to the property line, so it's not so sparse and overtaking. You know, there's other things that can be controlled, such as fencing and screening, which is something we condition 9 times out of 10 if there's an issue or contention. Larger sheds, maybe they can be moved inboard more and set back where they are right now, what our code calls for right now. But maybe smaller sheds don't need to be the same setbacks. They can be brought in closer to the property line. Right, but yeah, it needs to be looked at again, and to minimize the amount of times that people have to come in front of the board. I mean, it's time and money that's costing our taxpayers. Mixed use. In my opinion, I think we need to enhance some of the commercial districts and allow mixed use, a mixture of residential and commercial. You know, a typical, what's happening is a lot in like New Rochelle and some of these bigger cities. I know we don't want to go to a bigger city theme, but we could scale it down to a proportionate size, is maybe have commercial business on the first floor with 2 or 3 stories of apartments above it. Could be built smartly and conservatively. It'll help bring or keep younger people here. There'll be rental units, I'm sure, where it's not going to be a big burden on the school system with children. You know, we want to keep young people here as well and let them have kids eventually and go through the system here and buy some of the older houses that are now available when they have children, and that'll keep that into the school system. But it's a big trend now where you have these apartment buildings that, for instance, in Stamford, in New Rochelle, a lot of developers are building commercial bottom floors with mixed use of not only millennials, but, you know, the baby boomers, retirees as well, where within these buildings they have amenities for both sets, both millennials and retirees, such as, you know, coffee, little coffee, cafeteria, seating areas, and what have you. So that's something we can start looking at as a master plan, envisioning down the road. And of course, not in residential areas, but along the commercial corridor. I know commercial signage is a big issue now, especially with the illegal signs that are out there. I know you guys are, or maybe it's a topic tonight that you guys are going to discuss as a town board. So we'll certainly help with that. But I think, Phil, you sent me a note, but that's more towards what we purview as a zoning board, maybe allowing a little more size for these commercial signs, because a lot of times an applicant will come through, and it doesn't make sense to have a sign that's only 40 square feet. You have a building that's, you know, pretty sizable. People want to advertise their business. We get that. So that's kind of a stumbling block we encounter all the time. You know, we usually give allowances, not doubling the variances, but, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, kind of. And one thing I want to just bring up is back years ago, Frank Del Campo and his board of years ago had the CMRR, which brought in grants for commercial businesses to help enhance their properties. Signage, we got the old classic signs. I don't see signs like that anymore. You know, the old wood carved signs. So maybe we can talk about doing that again. It's 20 plus years old. It's time to maybe bring some revitalization in here and get some grants from the state, Fed, what have you. Fences, I know fences are always a big deal, especially around the lakes. We want to keep them down because I know you want your privacy, but it's killing the view for most of the people, most of the rest of the town people that want to see these beautiful lakes and views of not only lakes, but, you know, some other properties as well. So we got to maintain that 4 foot. But what's happening a lot is, and I know, Mike, we debate about it all the time because there's nothing you could do. A lot of people are building up their fences. They're building a berm so that they can get 6 feet, but still it's a 4 foot fence. So I don't know, maybe we have to look at some language as to try to defray that from happening. I think that's all I had in mind. Any board members want to bring something up that I haven't touched upon?
Just one thing, this is not working, right?
Yeah, it's not working.
You know, Suzanne, you talked before about identity type districts that are going around, Restaurant Row, blah, 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 things of that nature. You have to make sure that the code is sort of balanced, that it's flexible enough to do what we want to do and make sure the commercial businesses are fine, but strict enough so that way we're not forced to grant a variance. People don't understand, sometimes I think the way our board works, there's 5 prescribed criteria that we have to do a balancing test on. We have to make sure that we don't lose that nature of what you're trying to accomplish when you do something like this. So we have to work really closely to make sure that the identity's kept. That's it. That's the only concern I have.
Anyone else with the zoning?
So, Mike, like I said, maybe we should spend some time going through some of the verbiage in the zones to, you know, change things that are outdated and need to entice bringing more business in.
We've been doing, what are we doing, 4 or 5 every year or 2? Yes. Every year.
Council said we'll put up a grading. We've never had a threshold that requires a grading permit, which I think is always problematic. And that could address fencing
400 in the future, but yeah, 100 is start. So I think that's really an exciting opportunity for us, and that, and I answer our question. So anything from the other?
Yeah, I'll just say, regarding the architecture, basically, it was a fantastic job, they were helping us, but I think, I would agree with me that some more, rigorous or specific guidance on architectural standards and so forth, that we worked on, where that is. Some, because it came to the end with the village area that we're talking about. There ain't kind of guidance, it's just like, well, no,
It's a free for all right now.
country, that's the thing, no photos, no particular guidance on that, and first, it's more important. By that time, we should have something that we review, because there's no guidance to look at, to get from off the back page, needs to concentrate.
I think that, will do, of course, it's like what we talked about, it's definitely gonna be talked about, and Grant, hopefully you can, Mr. Franz, hopefully you can, Vincent, you can, be part of it, because we'd like to add your money on it. But Carl, I agree with you, because if the building's gonna go in Carmel, say, towards the artisan, gallery that we're thinking of, and they wanna put up something that may not be in the vision, which everyone here wants to, so I do think that that's very important, that's why we need this to continue to move, continuously. We can't wait 3 to 4 months, have another meeting, 3 to 4 months, have another meeting. This has got to be done, we have a lot of work to do, and we'd like to continue to move forward, and that we want to.
And that's pretty much directly related to what we were discussing previously in regards to the neighborhood identities and characteristics. Reason why we're working with so many new outside consultants over the past few years is because we know that we need the specific expertise so we can begin to address this. So we will definitely be utilizing our architectural consultant in regards to that. We're going to be discussing it with some firms that specialize in code and zoning, and we're going to make sure that we give you exactly what we need. Of course, this is really only means of communication so that we can have your feedback, but we will be working hand in hand with our architectural consultants for the town because we want to make sure that you guys do have that guidance. Because one of the things that unfortunately we had lost after the architectural review board was dissolved, and I was the only person who voted against it, specifically saying we don't have code. Without code, why are we getting rid of the board? Now we're going to be moving towards getting code that we need. So we'll definitely be working hand in hand with the board to make sure that that we do have something that you are able to use as guidance, something that you can enforce, and then moving over to zoning board of appeals, something that you're able to utilize as well as enforcement. So we want to make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page and all concerns are addressed. And any time that there are concerns, please address them to us. We want to make sure that we do this right. We're only going to get one shot at it. The next time that it's going to get done probably is going to be the next generation that will be taking over. So let's work together and let's do it right.
Are there, is there anyone else? Yes, Mark.
One of the things regarding the look at the update of the master plan, I think, I don't know how we do it feasible, but would take all in place throughout. This is my, I've been in some of the area, and that's grown, and it's sort of north, in the past years here, going
any recommendations, we really, we agree and we want to hear everything. We're a very open-minded board that knows we don't have all the answers, and that's why we're having this meeting to kind of pick it all up tonight.
Is there, any,
Suzanne says something.
yes,
So I just want to piggyback off of Carl and Craig. It's really, really important that we get information regarding aesthetics and, because with the cell towers that are going up, we want to make sure that we're concealing, we're doing the right thing. We've done, our best with what we can do. And the first applicants that came forward to us with the result were a disaster. And since Romero's was the best one we've had. So we really need to make sure that going forward, that it continues to improve and we have that direction so that we make sure that we don't have the setbacks that we did with the earlier applicants. So that's something that I stress the most about.
There's a new code that was written, November, and that's gonna help us quite a bit. Before the public hearing, you actually have to put a mock-up of the roof or whatever it's going, that shows what it's gonna look like. Styrofoam, whatever it's gonna be, but it's actually ridiculous steep, so that's gonna be good.
I think one of the issues that we had seen previously was a breakdown in communication between the different bodies of the town. And that's something that we're really trying to work on more aggressively, make sure that anybody who has a part in any code that we're going to be implementing is going to be able to review the code previous to us implementing the code. I know that we had done that specifically with the ECB on our Rex code. That's why we had to postpone our public hearing on it. And with tonight's discussion, there may be another possibility for postponing. But we definitely want to make sure that that we don't drop the ball in regards to communicating with our different boards, with our advisory committees, because we want to make sure that you're in a position for a reason. We want to make sure you're being utilized for that, and we don't want to step on toes. We want to make sure that everybody's input is taken into account for final decisions.
are there any, consultants here that would like to speak?
Susan, if I can just add,
Yeah.
as boards, as administrative boards, zoning, planning, ECB, we're going to rely on you to meet as a board, to get together as boards independently, not in a setting like this, and discuss what your thoughts are, your vision of the town. It's imperative that, we get that information from you, because you're the boards that the applicants come before. So you would probably have the best information as far as changes that need to be made going forward, and what you feel, and you're giving us some feedback tonight, but we want you to, when you leave here tonight, we really do want you to put a lot of work into this as boards independently with yourselves, and, jot down, make notes, give us a report on what you feel needs to be included in the new master plan going forward, any code revisions or changes, because, we're going to rely on you as those boards to give us that information, so, and we're going to take that information that you provide for us, and we're going to incorporate that into any document moving forward, because it's imperative that you guys give us that information. So it's not just us, it's not just the town board working on this, we're really relying on you as boards to give us information back. So take some time to do that, chairman of the boards, it doesn't have to be on the night that you're meeting with applicants, it could be another night that you meet separately together, and just spend some time with a local what you feel needs to be done. And we'll take that information from you, and we'll work on that, and we may even have we may want to meet with the board separately, and go over your notes and what your thoughts are, and what you want to see done, okay?
If I may, I would just like to say that, we're certainly all waiting, I'm sure all the boards are all in on that, but, really, I think the role of the board is not to do an hour, but the community wants to see, right? It's not just us making those decisions, so if there's a venue to maybe our seniors or something that send out a note to the listening to the meeting, but it's a way to get additional input. The top five most high priority things for maybe folks in the town that need to address. It's not just the folks in this room. But we just need to
in this needs to be... I'm sorry? Oh, okay. I'm Michael Celestino. I'm the head of the Mahopac Carmel Chamber of Commerce. Our role in this is really to ultimately help the community through working with all the businesses that are part of the Chamber of Commerce. So rather than getting into any details, because I think it is going to be a very detailed approach, certainly we'll be very much involved in any of the meetings that come up. And I would say to the members of the Chamber and any other businesses that are in the town that any things that they feel that they want to come and talk to the Chamber about that we can then bring to the meetings. We're happy to be the funnel for the businesses of the community and the community to help guide this in the right direction. I think the road won't be a straight line. I think there'll be a lot of twists and turns along the way. And there'll be a need for compromise because I think we want to be commercial, but we also want to protect the DNA that we have today in this wonderful town that we have. So that road is going to be it's going to take time to figure out what that right approach will be. But as I said, we definitely want to be a part of it. Larry and Tom have been a part in speaking to you a little bit, and we'll continue to do that. Okay.
Frank Monaco, I'm sorry, are you able, do you have any input?
No, I just think that we have a franchise agreement that's due to be renewed in January of next year, and we have on our website, the Carmel Cable TV, there's an email address for me. If you want to send any kind of complaints or issues with the current Comcast franchise agreement, please do, and I'll make sure we give them to Matt Skane, who's coming to our next meeting next month. And that I would say, when you talk about the planning, that we need to think about wired and wireless throughout the whole community. And there's some, okay, but there's not enough. A lot of dead spots. And I think, you're talking about cell towers and things like that. We need more, not less, I think, the way things are going in the communities. And the connectivity, even in this place, okay, seems to be, it needs an upgrade. So that's all. That's all I have. Thank you.
So the public is aware, as this contract comes up, renegotiation, we're going to use all the leverage we possibly can. If Comcast has a wire strung to a telephone pole, has a new telephone pole next to it, the better we will with the new telephone pole. Because all the broken telephone poles around town and duplication of poles is going to come to an end. This is one piece of leverage that we can use with Verizon and Comcast and whoever else. It's the town.
That's on the agenda.
Yeah,
Forget about that.
yeah, that's on the agenda at the last meeting, and then, as we were all talking about, I sent that into Frank. So that's in the minutes already to do that, because after the storm that we saw, it's horrendous. It's terrible. Yes,
Frank, it's not that we're against cell towers, it's just that we want it to be aesthetically pleasing.
Right.
We don't want them to be sticking out in the community like a sore thumb. So we are for it, it's just that we need to make sure it gets done appropriately.
Sure. Understand.
and then Carl, would you like to come up?
Well, a lot of the stuff I've heard tonight is basically what a lot of people are thinking about. I hear the mixed use, there's a need for that in the town. On a county level, we recognize the need for sewer, water, especially our commercial corridors. Commercial growth, quality commercial growth is going to be the key to keep the taxes down for the residents. Aesthetics is a big thing that I've always been on. We had an architectural review board. It seemed to miss the boat, in my opinion. When I look at different things up and down the Route 6 corridor, you have stuff that just doesn't flow. And I know we could do a lot better. Conceptually in the future, you would like to come through the town and recognize this as a more beautiful area that flows together. We have buildings with different shapes that really don't go along with their neighbors. Even things like when we did the sewer district, I had comments years ago about the sewer plant in Carmel. When I looked at that when it was first conceptualized, I said, what will it look like? Well, it's going to have a chain link fence and some shrubs in front of it, and it's right next to a successful plaza. Items like that we should look at and really think them out and say, how can we make them look the best and flow with the town? You know, the out-of-ground pump stations, I was, against them, and I know it's dollars and cents, but there's a way to make it all look better. But I heard a lot of good ideas tonight, and I'm glad that we're having this meeting. I think, and the county's all behind it. I hope we could all move forward. Thank you for all the work you're doing.
Hi, I'm very happy to see this as a member of the Mahopac Carmel Chamber. We've been looking at this for years and had discussions on this from the county standpoint. One thing that struck me during the conversation is how our county-wide shared services project can maybe tie into some of this. I think Faith pointed out your GIS system. Is that something that we could work on with shared services? Many of you know that Governor Cuomo has a shared services initiative where we're trying to get the county and the towns to work together to eliminate and to save taxpayer money. So I don't know if there's a way, as we're looking into shared services, to roll some of this together. Also, as Carl pointed out, the sewer district is something very important for us, the county. We really want to bring in commercial development in a smart way, and I think your master plan will help a lot to bring in smart development if and when, hopefully when, the sewer district gets in. And also, I'd be curious to find out how the sewer district will affect zoning. And is that, how that's going to work in the future, how the sewer district would possibly affect the zoning along Route 6, and how that's going to change. And we have to look at how that's going to look in 50 years, if we do get the sewer. And I think that's about all. But we're very, very excited. I'm happy to be on the ad hoc committee. I sure did. Yeah, I think there's a lot of great ideas. I'm really happy to see all the departments sitting around the table having this open discussion. It's phenomenal. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So we're going to open it up to the public, and we'll go row by row, because I think that's the most cordial and the most organized. So we'll just start like here, and then go here, and then go back, if that's okay. So anybody over here? Yep. If you please don't mind going up to the mic so everyone can hear you.
Hi, I'm Jay Crawford. I work with Ed and John on the Lake Park District Advisory Board. One of the things that we heard at the New York State Federation, one of the things we heard about and was discussed as a hot topic at the New York State Federation of Lake Associations that we attended 2 weeks ago was how road salt is getting into the lakes. It's becoming a big issue upstate, and I think we should help the highway departments and get ahead of that one before it becomes a problem, because you can put salt into water like Lake Mahopac, you can't take it out. So something that we should cherish. I heard some good comments about how much we like the lake. Mm-hmm. Great.
Mike Simone is going over to a different process where he's not going to use straight road salt on town roads in the city of Mahopac. The roads going around like the county roads.
Right.
So I don't know if they use straight salt or they use a mix of salt and brine. I'm not really sure. But there is a solution that Mike Simone is going to be using on the town roads to lessen the amount of salt that would enter our bodies of water.
Yeah, and that would be great if. Sorry, Ken. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Is there an opportunity to coordinate with the county? Because obviously, great. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
If that's in effect of what you're treating the roads, we should do that. Reduce the amount of salt. Thank you for that.
We'll start with your first row here, and then
Thank you for having me, and I'm Lawrence Zaks. I'm with the Carmel Chamber of Commerce, and my partner Tom and I, Amy, Faith, we've been meeting and discussing this with Councilman Schneider and Councilwoman McDonough in terms of our master plan and our overall plan for the next 50 to 100 years in the town of Carmel. I've been here for 50 years, and in the year or two that we've been discussing this, we really need to sit down and plan our future. We need to plan our roads, as Carl had brought out. We have a serious logjam in our roads. We also are trying to attract commercial development. We are very negligent in keeping our tax base even with our residential development. Part of our problem is we started as a summer community. We were an agricultural community. Trains came up, dropped people off. We have an extensive summer community. These were converted to year-round residences. We do not have the infrastructure, the water, the sewer, the roads, the commercial planning to sustain this. We need to step back and plan for the next 50 to 100 years. That's the exciting thing. Everyone in this room are key players in these decisions. By coming together and sharing these ideas and charting a path with our roads, with our zoning, with our commercial development, and also with the aesthetics to allow our architectural looks to be coordinated in advance so that we're not playing catch-up. And these are the plans that we are now finally sitting down and coming together. So I thank you for that. Tom, my partner at the Chamber of Commerce, have been working with other towns. So we have the depth of knowledge in planning and in zoning. Some of the key issues that we really have to look at is our sewer facility, which is very exciting if that is going to be expanded. We have a couple of wonderful opportunities. One, the hotel. The other things we really need to look at is our logjam of traffic from Mahopac Avenue all the way into the town of Mahopac. One thing that came up was our road structure. We need to seriously look at bypasses. These are touchy subjects, but if we do not come up with some bypasses now, in 50 or 100 years, the traffic's not going to get better. We really need to sit down and figure out where we can put in turning lanes. Can we enhance Bucks Hollow Road? Can we enhance Miller Avenue? Can we make a cut through the Camarda property that would interconnect with Baldwin Place Road, allowing traffic to go from 6 End to Stillwater over Camarda's property to Union Valley Road, and give us east-west corridors. There are many opportunities to improve and plan our area. So I had a lot of other things that I would like to discuss, but I think I'll make it short for tonight. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Revnisky, and I'm from Mahopac.
Jerry, you need to talk close to the mic.
Hi, I'm Jerry Revnisky from Mahopac, and I first want to start out by commending the board for coming up with this idea. Whoever idea it was, I think it was an excellent idea to bring the community together to face this issue. Also, I want to just make a suggestion. If it's possible to have microphones around the room that people who are seated around in this square here can be heard by everyone. I do have hearing aids. I hear most of it, but occasionally I miss some of it. And if it's a little louder, I think it would be a lot better. People my age, and I'm 82, probably have about 80% of those people have some hearing problems, and most of those people don't use hearing aids. So it is difficult. One of the things I think is needed is review of the ethics law. I don't know if you have an ethics board anymore, but when you had it, I think all the people on there were excellent representatives and ethical people, but Well, I think in terms of,
We do have it at this board.
okay,
But I just want to, get
Okay.
suggestions, ideas for the code zoning and
I'll-
infrastructure.
okay. Well, I think part of it certainly involves the environment, and I think there's some good suggestions. I think this town needs to take a leadership role rather than sit back and wait for other people to come up with the ideas. There are many ideas that can be used. In terms of laws relating to plastics, that filling the ocean, there's more fish than, more plastic than fish in the oceans now, and in the rivers and so forth. Use of, in our community, we have people using this Roundup, which is very bad for the water condition. Roundup is actually the same chemical as Agent Orange, and we know what that is.
Right, yes.
So,
And I'm sorry, because I do want to hear everything you say with these, but if you can tell to them about at the town board meetings, 'cause tonight, again, it's just the codes and zoning, infrastructure, and the master plan. It's
Right.
for the future of the town. But I did write down what you said, and next week's at the meeting, please bring them up again.
well, I can send, I have quite a few ideas that I can send to you, and I'll send it during the week and you'll have it. And hopefully you'll take it seriously. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I can't see how the Rose got those people, so you can, just be on the honest.
Anybody on that side?
Yeah.
Back there, standing?
Yeah, Jim, just an answer to one of your questions regarding the microphones, I believe we do have, money in the budget, we put money in the budget for, microphones and whatever, so we can certainly look into that, yes. Yeah, so just be cordial and get up, because I can't see how the Rose go.
Anybody else want to come up and speak?
Yeah, so just line up.
Raise your hand. This woman here.
Yep, come on.
Hi, I'm Marsha Waldman from MAPAC. Can you hear me? Okay. First of all, I would like to commend the comments from the Environmental Conservation Board. I live over by Kirk Lake, but what I see, I think, is probably throughout the town and probably further too, is that there's these inroads into our waterways, into our wetlands, by people who go ahead and do what they feel like doing. And they might be too small for the state to ever notice, but those of us who live right here do notice, and I think it's urgent that we have that local view and that local enforcement power to prevent people from just putting in another dock or, clearing 100 trees off their land just, because they feel like it. And that, we can't just look away from that, because that will affect us in the long term, inch by inch, but it does change the place that we live in. I think it's very important. Another thing I'd like to say is we're talking, and I loved your comments, we're talking about 50 years ahead. I think a lot of the comments tonight were about addressing very immediate needs and immediate problems, fixes for things in our system that, are out of date. But I think we need to focus more ahead of us and not just do what's been done. For example, and I'm not picking on recreation, it's just a small, example. We have lots of sports. Sports are wonderful. Our kids need it, our adults need it. I'll get to my point. Excuse me. I do, if you will let me get to it. Excuse me.
Yeah, just address the board. We're not going to get into, and I said from the beginning,
I'm just giving an example of how we can be looking further forward, okay? So, for example, sports is great. Let's do more, not just 365 days a week, but all our kids. Not all our kids are sports kids. Things like, how about an innovation center where kids can work with technology or make video productions or build things, or places where our seniors can engage with our young people? How about innovation centers? How about implementing more things like the water meters? Great. What else can we do with high technology to make more efficient use of our existing water supplies and our existing sewage systems? So we need like an innovation guru, you know, somebody who's really going to look to the future 50 years out so that we're not just solving our current problems, but really creating a vision for our town for the future, which I heard great suggestions today, but very little of it was visionary. Makerspace. Well, then don't cut me off when I'm trying to tell you that.
Okay, next, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Andreas. I've been a relatively new resident. I've only been here for 15 years, so I live right downtown. My question is in regards to the Swan Cove and the new park. I would assume that that is a large part of the master plan, because changing that or adding that or modifying that part of downtown, how is that going to affect what's going on in the right immediate downtown, and how can somebody get involved in learning more and being involved in the development of that?
The Swan Cove piece is just a small piece of the big puzzle, what we're trying to achieve downtown. We really need to revitalize our downtown Mahopac look, and that's part of it. Swan Cove Park is part of it. But we need municipal parking. There's always been an issue with parking in downtown Mahopac. So we're looking at parcels that are currently bank-owned to incorporate that in our vision of downtown Mahopac, is to create municipal parking, but also make it more attractive. Wider sidewalks, new lighting. The Swan Cove parcel is going to be primarily a passive park. It's going to be part of our park system. Because that's a beautiful piece of lakefront property. Right now it's not, but it will be once it's developed and once we do the improvements. So it's all going to flow into what's going to, we believe, is going to be a new view and a new look for downtown Mahopac. So that's all part of it. But this is the beginning of the revitalization of that area. So we needed, that parcel was key to really incorporating that with the Chamber Park and our parking plan for downtown. So you're going to see in the coming months, changes are going to be made there. First, the buildings have to come down, the ones that are currently on that site. Then moving forward, we have a plan for really making things develop there. It's going to evolve into a beautiful section of Mahopac.
Well, I believe the park itself can probably be very pretty, and it could be a very great enhancement to the community. I've heard people talking about that they're going to go swimming there, and they're going to hang out there, and people are going to be in the water. That water is not a place that people want to go swimming.
Yeah, that park is not going to be designed as a passive park where swimming is going to be permitted. It's definitely not. It's not a swim area, and I agree with you. That section of the lake is kind of.
It's actually dangerous.
We're in total agreement with that. There's not going to be any swimming activities at that site.
Okay, so my other question was, how can someone who's not on the board get involved in participating in that conversation?
Recreation committee, when they have the, because it's part of Parks and Recreation. So I would suggest attending their meetings, which is the first Thursday of each month, and your contact coming to the town board meeting, and your contacting one of the town board members if you have suggestions.
Okay, thank you.
It's a large old abandoned oil
And I would think everybody knows where it is. But, we work very hard together with property owners to have that removed. And with some volunteers, it's being removed as we speak today. And it'll be finalized and torn down tomorrow and part of the way we're going to do it. So that's just the start of how downtown is going to look very different than how it looks right now.
Yeah, I want to thank Michael. Thank you for that.
Hi, keep things rolling. I'm Armanda Familetti. I live in Carmel. I just want to say that I can't see your name, but you had a suggestion. Let's find out what the residents of the town of Carmel want. I just want to, I can give this to you in writing, but on the west side of Putnam, they have had community get-togethers where people all got together and they all talked about what would be great for our communities. You know about that? Okay, oh, you don't. Oh, anyways, we do, and I can get you in touch with actually the nonprofit that arranged that. So that's one item. The other item is, and I don't mean to be a downer, but I guess under the last master plan, it was possible to build the Pulte Retreat. And I don't know how everyone feels about that. When I'm coming on Route 6 and I see those ticky-tacky houses up on that hill that used to be a beautiful forest, it says this isn't the Carmel that I moved to 20 years ago. And so I would hope that something like that kind of a development doesn't happen again, and certainly not in Carmel. Thanks.
Come on, come from the other side of the room.
Hi, Faith Ann Butcher, as a private resident. I heard a lot of talk about things that needed to happen. We need to look at, we're having more and more storms happen more frequently and at a greater impact. So when we look at zoning and planning, we need to think about how these storms are going to affect our infrastructure, and any new developments come in, maybe the wires should be underground. Just talk. Okay, just to, like I'm looking at these things and I'm like, maybe trees certain way back from the wires. Like, just if we can have less damage during all these storms, that would be, as an immediate thing. That was what I was looking at. Looking 30 to 50 years ahead, we need to remember that Putnam County has the fastest growing percentage of seniors in our population, and the number of special needs people, especially as we have a senior population, is increasing, and we need to make sure that our zoning and planning takes that into consideration. And finally, I think that we went to something a while ago where it said, like, in 50 years, over 30% of the population in Carmel was going to be Spanish speaking. And that needs to be something that needs to be considered also when we're looking at our planning, because culturally, they typically live in a multi-generational household. So that's something that needs to be considered. When you're looking towards the future, you need to plan for your whole future and every part of the community, not just a little segment of it. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tom Iannicari. I am with the Mayapack Carmel Chamber, along with Larry Zaks. I'm co-chair of the Legislative Advocacy Board. We fondly call it the Lab, who published this little piece back in August calling for an updated master plan looking a quarter of the century or more into the future. But before I get to any of my points, I bring you a message from the chairwoman of the Putnam County Chamber, Jen Marr. She says, "Dear Town of Carmel Board and other participants, regrettably I am unable to make this evening's public town board session. I did, however, want to take a moment and thank each and every one of you for the leadership this town board is displaying by looking to the future for the betterment of our town. I know you have taken a lot of heat and it has not been easy. So kudos to each and every one of you, and I look forward to hearing of more beautification as well as infrastructure improvements in the near future. I would also like to thank the Mahopac Carmel Chamber of Commerce for their commitment to our town. If we can ever be of service in any way, just reach out. Keep up the excellent work on economic development. Yours in commitment to our town, Jennifer Moore, Chairwoman of the Putnam County Chamber. Heard a lot of great ideas tonight, and Larry and I have been working on this along with others for years, ever since we started on the signage code several years back. Our document has a lot of what I heard tonight, and I'm really proud to say that this is just personally exciting for me. The other thing is, as the lady mentioned a few minutes ago, there's cultural development that can be built into a master plan. The master plan is a total blueprint, not just for Mahopac, but for Carmel in whole. Carmel is the county seat. We need to lead by example of our image. Ultimately, also, one of the biggest points that Larry and I like to point out to people when we speak is that a new master plan eventually can provide for lower dependency on homeowner property taxes with more commercial business development tax ratables coming in. Smart development. We don't want to make it look like a Yonkers or anything, but what we want is a balance, and that's all we're seeking. Using our town lake areas as magnets to attract people, consumers as well as developers. And I understand that there are, the town's currently working on a state grant for the lake area developments. That's great. These will be like mini master plans in effect. We have, as Larry pointed out, the traffic is unbearable. Getting here tonight, down 6 was like really a challenge. I like the ideas that we've heard tonight about mixed use. Mixed use is very important in our future, not only to the millennial generation, but it creates an atmosphere. I'll give you one example. Imagine someone comes in to do a business redevelopment for an area, creates these enclaves of small neighborhood type situations where people are living there, people are shopping there, and people are just hanging out. It keeps people within that little planned urban development, if you will. You can even create little villages. So there's a lot that we're going to be talking about over the next year or two when it comes to this. One of the things in our position paper was advocacy from the public. The chamber, we have discussed holding, little public enclaves of information to bring in the business people and the building owners to discuss what it is they want, what they see, so we can get input. Now, this is perfect because the chamber is definitely going to want to sit on your ad hoc task force and get that input, and we can even help you manage those. Actually, in planning, they call them charrettes, where all the stakeholders come together and discuss projects. So we would definitely like to support the town. My name's already on the list. But in closing, I'd just like to say that, look, the town's is doing a lot of brave things, taking on property expenses, et cetera. I know they've taken a lot of flack. I thank you for your bravery. But these are necessary items. And there's going to have to be more around town. Not only Mahopac, but Carmel. Carmel also has a parking issue. So we'll be working on all those levels. And, it is consolidated funding season, guys, so I hope you get a nice chunk of change from the state for hiring a planner. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public that would like to,
Can I ask how many people that are here tonight are from the hamlet of Carmel? Just raise your hand if you're from the Hamlet.
Yep.
All right, we really, so, we really need more participation from the public, from the Hamlet Carmel business owners, residents. We really need them, and we should really try real hard to get them to participate and become involved in this. Because there are Hamlet, Hamlet Carmel residents, we have 3 Hamlets, Hamlet and Carmel, Hamlet and Mopac, and Hamlet and Mopac Falls. So, but it's extremely important that they participate, Hamlet and Carmel residents get involved in this. So we'll get that message out to them, to encourage them to get involved. Yeah. It's out. So those Hamlet and Carmel residents that are here tonight, please get the word out to your neighbors, your friends from up in Hamlet, to get involved in this and participate. It's going to involve them also. Thank you. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Hi, Jean Hopper, Mayapack. I agree with a lot of people that spoke. Wonderful things have been said. It was so interesting to hear from everybody. Really appreciate everybody getting together. Learned a lot tonight. You know, somebody had mentioned the future, really futuristic, and talking about infrastructure. It would be really nice if we could really be trendsetters and really futuristic and think about, I don't know what it entails to bury the power lines and sink those lines. I don't know if that's something NYSEG would help us with, if we do that independently. I know it's a pipe dream. You know, telephone poles are, listen. Marcia mentioned a wonderful thing about innovators. I challenge our young people. Telephone poles have been around, what, 130 years, and that design has not changed? What? Something's got to give there. This is the Stone Age, and we want to go forward. So I also, solar, wind, hydro. I would love for us to look to other communities worldwide, Scandinavia, Europe, things that are green planning, green environmental forward thinking, where they have beautiful communities that benefit everybody, that you can cycle to, that you can walk to, that not everything has to have a car. Some of our areas are small enough to have something like that, to have real, not just a bike trail, but real bicycle-friendly roads. Now, our roads, let's talk about the traffic. I have been told at many meetings the problem with our area is our traffic. We talk about commercial business to alleviate some of our taxes, but the big commercial businesses will not come here because of the traffic, okay? Our traffic will defeat the business they're hoping to achieve. Small businesses, yes, but big business that would really, you know, buoy up our tax base, sounds like it's not going to happen, and that makes me very sad. I hope that's something that could change. I don't know how that would change. We do have our small roads. We were a lake community. You know, we're all hoping that commercial business is going to come in here and somehow, you know, help with our taxes, but I don't see that happening, and I really hope that we could come up with something like that. The water. I really like what the people in the conservation department had to say. If we don't have clean, viable water, we're dead in the water. Ask Flint, Michigan. If you don't have clean water, there's also well water. When you talked about not having a double check, I drink well water from aquifers. So whenever we're planning anything, roads, construction, development, whatever, I'm thinking runoff, pollutants, salt. If we don't have water, we don't have a community. So you can't ship, you know, gallons of water from some, as we know, we already have problems with our water. So I think that's something that we really have to always think about. First and foremost is our water and our land. The clear cutting speaks to my heart. We've talked about this before, where people are just allowed to do whatever they want willy-nilly, and there's got to be some brakes on that. Development that started half-baked, walked away from, you know, we all hate looking at that. So that's all I had to say, is just I really want that clean water, because I think we don't have clean water, we don't have anything. Thank you.
Just
Danny Lampropoulos. I'm a small business owner in the downtown area of Mayapack. I have the Mayapack Wine and Liquor Store down in Mayapack, right across the street from Kobu. Our biggest complaint from our customers is parking. I know that we have this master plan to provide parking and all, and it's great, but somehow we don't have enough cooperation from some of the local business owners, and I think somebody from the board should really come down and talk to them. Let me give you an example. Some of the local owners feel privileged to park in front of their stores. I have a pickup truck. If I park my pickup truck in front of the store, it's either to get something out and I quickly move it. It's huge, it's big. It blocks people from trying to get out. Every day there's almost an accident in that little area when you have these big vans and these big trucks. The other day, a landscaper came down to go eat at one of the local restaurants there, and he had a trailer. And I don't know how some people didn't get killed over there. It's incredible. And we call the Carmel PD, we call whoever, but it's I think it's talking to a deaf ear, because there are signage around for 2-hour parking. But again, when any kind of van, any kind of oversized vehicle, I think they should not be allowed to park there. That's my opinion. I talked to some of the owners. I said, why do you park in front of your store? You park in front of your store, then your customers come and park in front of my store. And then my customers call me and say, there's no parking. What am I going to do? I don't know how many times I run across the street, run down the block with a case of wine for the customer because he's parked the block 2 blocks away. And customers in our store, I mean, you know, not too many people come into a liquor store and hang out. You know, they come in, buy what they want, and they leave. The nail salons, you know, some of the other, I don't want to name names because I'm not here to down anybody. I'm really trying to be very supportive of the community. We love this community. Been here 5 years now, and we really like it. But I talked to each and every owner, and some of them had told me, you know, go mind your own business. And I'm like, well then, Kate, in that case, I'll bring 10 friends with 10 cars, and my family, and I got a large family, by the way, and we'll park, and we'll take up 30 spots, and you'll never have a customer all day because no one's going to come into your store if they got to park blocks away. Don't park in front of your store. It's my store. I understand that. Try to be, you know, sympathetic to some of your customers. Give that opportunity, that parking spot to them. So I can't wait for this master plan. I know that, you know, you're all talking about it, but question, when will this happen? Because we really, really desperately need, even the small businesses in that area need that parking. And let me tell you, even with the big lot across the street, the Kobu lot, the Bart Lansky's lot, it gets filled. You'd be surprised how many people can fill up that lot. It's incredible. Mike Carnazza? Oh, okay. The other day, I want to mention one more thing, though. And I'm glad that, you know, it's pretty packed room here. The other day, because I'm in the store a lot, a lady was bringing her children across, was taking them out of the school, the little dance school. There's a little dance school. I don't know if you're familiar over there. And these little ballerinas are so cute, you know. And she's holding 2 kids, each in one arm, and there's another 2 kids, and there's a big van parked, and she's approaching, and the guy coming down, because they speed down that road a lot. and people are not courteous to that stop for pedestrian sign, and he had a slam on the brakes. I would never like to see a tragedy there, but if we don't address this soon, the oversized vehicles, you're going to have a tragedy on your hands that could be devastating. I don't know how many times we've seen elderly people who come in, and as they back up, because they don't look, they just inch backwards slowly, 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 and before you know it, somebody's going to cream them too. So it really, really, it's a major, major concern that nobody addressed it. I waited till to be the last one in case somebody else brought it up, but you know, I thank you for your time. This is very important for you folks, please. Thank you.
We're not waiting for the finalization of the master plan to be adopted to address those issues. We're working on that. We're working on that right now. That's in progress, and Mike can speak to that a little bit.
We're working on that right now. We left meeting with Mayapack National Bank last Friday. They gave the okay on our design. We're gonna give it to a professional drawer now. We're gonna finalize the closing of the property, and we're gonna move ahead. We're hoping
Okay.
within 24 months to have it done. We're talking about possibly making one of the smaller streets downtown one way, if there was some more parking over there. The safety factor was the main reason. DOT wanted the angle parking out for years. I mean, for 20 years. And this is all happening now as we speak.
But the oversized vehicles, my next door neighbor, Grace's Nails, he has a very, and I use him because he, you know, after talking to him for a very, very, very long time, he finally has found a parking spot, and he doesn't park there anymore because that van is, not only is it in length big, it's also in height big, and you cannot see over him. And I can't tell you how many times I put in a complaint just,
That's for a regular meeting.
yeah, okay.
Your question, your concern.
But he's moved it, he's cooperating it, but there's countless other large trucks that park there on a daily basis, so.
I personally drive a very large vehicle, and I frequent the ice cream store, the Chinese restaurant right there. So with my grandchildren. So I am very aware of backing out, pulling in, and blocking the person to my left when I pull in straight.
What color is your truck, Mike? Is that the big red one? Is that the big red one? No?
Everybody in this room has parked there at least one time and almost got hit backing out.
Yeah,
We're aware of it.
it's a concern.
We took the initiative. We took the heat, did a lot of it. We're moving along.
Okay,
And
that,
it's gonna happen
that's
a
great.
lot faster than anybody thinks.
As Ken mentioned, Supervisor Ken Schmidt, please see if you can do something, because again, the large trucks, that's just something waiting to happen, and I hate to see that happen, believe me. All right, thank you, thank you.
Real quick, I'll mention that, as Mike touched on this a little bit, New York State DOT, who controls Route 6 and State Road, they want the diagonal parking, they want that eliminated. They've been after us for years, telling us we have to stop it, have to stop. Because they've allowed it because they also realize that there's a lack of municipal parking in downtown. So we can't eliminate that until we create new parking. Once the new municipal parking lot is put in and built out, it is our plan to eliminate the actual diagonal parking. But we can't lose 24 parking spaces or 21 parking spaces.
No, that would be a nightmare.
Until we have a new parking lot where cars can park in. And the other thing is, I thought Mike was gonna mention this, but he didn't. We're gonna ask the merchants, the owners of the businesses and their employees to park in the municipal parking lot. There's gonna be a section of that parking lot, Mike, correct?
The section closest to the store is gonna be the customers.
And the way it should be.
And the employees should park away.
Let me tell you something. I park 2 blocks, 3 blocks away. I don't mind walking, but other people don't like to walk. You know, they want to park right in front of their store, so.
Your issue is a regular work session issue, but the parking lot has been designed convenient-wise for the public, and the owner of the store doesn't have to walk for
Okay, and a time frame roughly, because,
We'd love to start tomorrow. We're waiting, our town engineer is in contact with DEP. You know, as a businessman, as someone that's getting used to how municipalities work, I'm very frustrated. Used to be a lot of that. So,
that,
the joke of the building is the speed of rail. Well, we can't go that way because it's not private. There are rules and regulations that the municipality has to follow, that private developer maybe doesn't have to follow different ways. And, you know, we have to, there's a lot of things we have to do. We're hoping to have it completed within 18 months, 24 months. I'd like to see it sooner. I don't think it's gonna be sooner. The cottages will come down, the fence will come down, the park will be beautified. Like I said, little things at a time. Oil tanks come down tomorrow. That's good. People have stared at that for 50 years. You know, cottages are gonna come down before the end of, by the middle of, towards the end of June. That's big. So, a little at a time. Once the parking lot is built, the sidewalk will be widened, the lamps will be changed. It's gonna come together very quickly.
okay, thank you, thank you.
I'm a-coming.
Hi, Judy Mira from Carmel. First of all, bravo to the board. I know that this master plan and all of these future endeavors have been floating out there for a while, and you've really put the pedal to the metal, and you're moving with it. But the best thing about this is all of this, is the communication, which is absolutely the most important thing that you can do. Having the town, the heads of the committees, the residents, all the stakeholders involved, and communicating frustrations, concerns, improvements, ideas, it's a wonderful thing, and that's what moves a town forward. So bravo to that. A lot of talk has been about millennials. Because what you're talking about is a future for 50 years in advance. Well, look around the room. A lot of us probably won't reap the benefits of that. So I think it's really important to get them. Kenny, you talked about getting Carmel here. I think you really have to get the younger people here. And I know you put it out, it's in the papers. May I suggest maybe taking an ad out in the local papers and appealing to them, not just an announcement, but just appealing to how important this process is, and we really need everybody's input. I know it's very hard, young families, babysitters, jobs, times, and so on, but it would be nice to have everybody. But thank you for this forum. Thank you. Thank you.
We had a book from our local library. Over the past about 18 months, they put together a lot of different groups. And I was privileged to be in one of the groups where they had reached out. And there were people who had just come back from college who were talking about what they saw the future of the town, what they knew that they needed for their generation to be enticed to come back to town instead of trying to find a place less affordable, that has better public transportation, that has better jobs available. And I think that what we need to do is probably reach out to the library, find out if they were able to get that type of penetration into that demographic, because they are from a younger generation, which is going to be our town's future. Because if we don't embrace the younger generation, then we're not really going to have much of a future here. Because when we get to fixed incomes and taxes keep rising, there's only one way to go, and it's out. So we definitely need to take heed to that recommendation and really try to work closely with our younger generation.
And certainly Marcia mentioned it about having, things for interests and abilities and things for all kids. It's so important. I talked about
a true master plan is going to incorporate culture. And that's what we really need to embrace. We used to have the youth playhouse here. That a lot of people visited back in the day. That we don't have anything like that these days. So we definitely want to make sure that when we do discuss the future for Parks and Rec, that we're going to be including things like that as well. Thank you.
And Judy, I just want to mention, two of my sons moved to White Plains. I really didn't want to move to White Plains, but they said that's where the apartments are, that's where it's happening, that's where they can go out and do things at night and back home to their apartment. That's where they are. I would have preferred them to stay here, but what's here for them? That's the issue, that's the problem. We have to create an environment where they want to stay and not leave.
I lived down in that area before I came up here. I was in Hartsdale and worked down there. And White Plains has become Manhattan North. And it is. It's high-rise buildings. It offers, so much. I don't think we want to see that here, but on some level you have to offer, be it extended education and different cultural kinds of places, and a hotel and businesses that are so important, to really bring people up here. I just remember, Shop Putnam, that's what I, Shop Putnam. Place, We have to move on.
Hi, Allison Winstanley. One thing that I heard earlier, and one thing I think we really should be concentrating on, a lot of the boards are saying about their rules, regulations, codes need to be updated. Well, in order for everything to move forward, we all know that that's going to take a long time. That could take close to a year. So maybe the first thing you really should be working on is their rules, codes, regulations. Also, I have a millennial here. She said Instagram. Add Instagram, put it out there on Instagram, and I'm thinking maybe invite the Young Republican Club, the young, if there's a Young Democrat Club, invite them all to the meetings, and this way you get the younger people involved. But that's it.
Kelly, you know what your job is? To get the millennials here.
Is there anyone else from the public?
My name is Joyce Picone. I live in Carmel, and I'm speaking as a resident, not as a member of a board here or an advisory board. When we talk about roads and traffic and safety and downtown and development and widening roads, I would just like in the planning to also consider the small little country roads that are now being used as shortcuts with oversized vehicles, roads that barely will hold one car. I live on one of them, so in fairness, full disclosure. But Cherry Hill, Seminary Hill Road, the bridge on Drewville's been repaired 3 times over the course of the last 6 or 7 or 8 months. And there are tons of roads throughout the community that are going to keep being small because there's no way to make them large. So I don't know if there's a designation, some kind of technical GPS country road designation, or if the town could look into that. Obviously signage and fines and stuff, but they're being used as shortcuts, and they just can't sustain it. And it is also really a safety issue. So I'd like that to be put into the coffers as you think of things. And under my other hat as the director of the Putnam Arts Council, I can assure you all there is a lot of cultural things to do here. It might be that we don't have a performing arts space, which would be a great part to integrate into recreation and or town planning. A place where people could go to see lots of different things, obviously films, performances, and concerts. That would be terrific. We could use one on this side of the county, and definitely the town of Carmel or Mahopac would be great. And also for many years I've been talking about some kind of cohesive signage that also helps to inform the people who live here, not just people who are coming from outside the community, of different resources. Parks and Rec has been great with putting up signs for the different ball fields, but we can't get a sign for the Putnam Arts Council. I have tried. So maybe I could talk to one of you on another occasion about that. But there are many other things that could use signage. And in terms of beautification of Mahopac, some uniform code for signage would be really very nice, and I would like to see that. So, thank you for putting all of this together. I really do appreciate hearing everyone's opinion, and I've been informed by a lot of, especially you all, about things that I really wasn't aware of. And I too think that local environmental concerns should be, are important to also be looked at locally, not just by the state. So thank you. You're welcome.
Debbie, anyone else? Okay, so the next step is we're going to create an ad hoc committee at the early stages, so, if you want to be on, please just make sure we have your information up here. There will be, regular committee meetings, we don't know when, and we're gonna rotate with the board members, because by law, all board members cannot be at the meeting. So there'll be 2 board members, and we'll just, that's okay with you guys. We'll just rotate, the board members in and out. Like Kenny mentioned before, we do have funding of $100,000 to help with our Cullinan master plan. And in conclusion, we're committed to our town's future and look forward to continuing from all members of our great town and everyone here. And thank you for coming out tonight. And they don't say it's going to be really beautiful weather, and somebody's like, snooze, John, yes.
Sort of mentioned or figured out just want to remind everyone, this is a journey that we're embarking on, a journey that we really haven't done in 27 years, even for the code board. If we are going to revamp the code, it's not just a modification. It's suits and helps, page 1 to the last page. Again, this is not going to be a sprint. It's going to be a marathon, but when I say a marathon, this is not going to be year after year, year after year project. We are working on it, we're dedicated, we're focused, but we're not going to be short-sighted. But this is going to be a process. It's a journey. If people want to attend the meeting, by all means, send an email to the town board or to anyone, board members here, because as Susie said, we're going to create an ad hoc task force or committee, and this is going to evolve. We will be giving you updates, at the weekly town hall board meetings. So, again, it's just a journey. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but we're not going to enjoy it.
And just before you leave, we do have we set up a Facebook for the town of Carmel. We try to get information out by social media. If you go to the town of Carmel site on Facebook, if you like us, if you don't like us, just like the town. Like it, and you'll get all the information out on Facebook for the latest news and from us. Okay? Thanks for being here, everyone.